Welcome back, Defenders. My last YouTube video was pretty depressing. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it was looking pretty bad. But in the last 48 hours, things politically have improved greatly for Ukraine. And to start today's video, I want to share with you a report from Zarina Zabriskie. She's an American journalist on the ground in Ukraine. She's currently in the city of Kherson. And she's been speaking to ordinary Ukrainians. What are they saying in response to Donald Trump calling Zelenskyy a dictator, and Donald Trump saying it's Ukraine's fault for starting this war? Here's her report.
I just wanted to share something inspiring. I had a great meeting with Ukrainian military. I'm working on an article about an innovation which will hopefully help to bring victory for Ukraine faster. And they told me that they see the positive side to Trump's betrayal, which they clearly see as betrayal. They said that A, Europe woke up finally, and B, Ukrainians, frankly, are more united and more even inspired to fight through the end and stand up together so they can decide when they elect their president and at the time that they want to elect their president. So it's all good and the victory is coming.
So these attacks from Donald Trump are unifying the Europeans, and they're unifying Ukrainians behind their president. Check out this vote in Ukraine's parliament. The Ukrainian parliament unanimously voted to affirm President Zelenskyy's legitimacy and the constitutionally mandated requirement that prevents elections during martial law. All of the MPs in opposition parties to Zelenskyy's voted in favor of this. Because obviously, President Zelenskyy is not a dictator. He's not canceling elections to stay in power forever. Elections are not possible while Ukraine is in a state of war and the country is under martial law. That is what their constitution says, and President Zelenskyy is just following the law. Now, for all my European viewers, I know you're upset with America right now, and you're leaving me comments. Why aren't Americans protesting? Why aren't they rising up against Donald Trump? And it is happening. Here is a protest, a pro-Ukrainian protest that took place in front of Trump Tower in the city of Chicago. Let me play for you a little of this clip. So this is Chicago, and that is Trump Tower right there. And I guarantee you these protests are going to grow. There are lots of Americans very unhappy with Elon Musk and Donald Trump right now. And these pro-Ukrainian protests are going to blend in with other groups that are also going to be protesting Trump and Elon Musk for various reasons. But this is not going to get mainstream media coverage. If you attend one of these protests, if you're American, take pictures, take videos, post them on social media so they have the chance to go viral. That's honestly the only way I'm going to see them. Going forward, you cannot rely on the mainstream media to cover events such as this. According to Politico, Ukraine can keep fighting with European backing if the United States cuts military aid. We just had elections in Germany. The new Chancellor of Germany is in discussion for creating a $200 billion defense fund. This would be for rearming Germany, but I imagine that this would free up some inventory and stockpiles that can be used to help Ukraine fight the Russians. So it all comes down to this mineral deal, and a lot changed in the last 2 days. The deal, as I understood it, last week and this week, was pretty terrible. But Ukraine apparently is really good at negotiations, and Donald Trump is very bad at negotiations. So Zelenskyy is coming to Washington, D.C. tomorrow, this Friday, to sign this agreement with President Trump in the White House. Here is what President Zelensky says on Twitter. Today, there has been a lot of international work. Our teams are working with the United States as we prepare for negotiations this Friday. The agreement with the United States, the support of our country and people. Peace and security guarantees are the key to ensuring that Russia can no longer destroy the lives of other nations. I will meet with President Trump. For me and for all of us in the world, it's important that U.S. support is not stopped. Strength is needed on the path to peace. I am grateful to all the partners who continue to support us and to all people who believe in Ukraine. So here's the new mineral agreement, and this is unrecognizable from what I was looking at a week ago or even 2 days ago. They completely changed everything. So here's the text. I'll link this article down below if you want to read it for yourself. And this is a pretty good deal for Ukraine. So included in the agreement is one sentence about security guarantees. Ukraine's prime minister says that minerals deal draft includes a security guarantee condition. Okay, now what is it? And it simply says that the U.S. supports Ukraine's efforts to obtain the security assurances necessary to build a lasting peace. Zelensky told journalists that he had wanted at least a phrase about security guarantees, adding, "This sentence now appears." Now, what does this mean? It's symbolic. It doesn't commit the United States to anything, but Donald Trump gave that concession and it was included in the deal. Additionally, the whole 2-to-1 clause, that's gone. There is no mandate that for every dollar of aid given by the United States, Ukraine has to pay the United States $2 back. Here is what President Zelensky says about the 2-to-1 clause. This agreement is part of our bigger agreements with the United States. This agreement may be part of future security guarantees. A deal is a deal, but we need to have a broader concept of what awaits Ukraine. Where are we? What awaits Ukraine? I'm calm because I was told that the 2-to-1 clause is no longer there. So it already states it correctly, thank God. For Ukraine to pay $2 for every dollar the US spends seems like not a substantive clause to me. That's why it's not there anymore. I have a positive feeling about that. So the 2-to-1 clause is gone. Ukraine is under no obligation to pay back the United States more than the United States gives in any kind of aid. This is analysis from Timothy Milanovov. He is the president for the Kyiv School of Economics, so he probably understands this agreement better than me. And this is a victory for Ukraine because this fund being created is not solely US controlled. This will be jointly controlled by both the United States and Ukraine. And if the United States wants to do anything, they need Ukraine's approval in order to transfer funds or spend funds. So this is a shared ownership, which is good for Ukraine. In addition, this is crazy, but the fund will only be able to invest in Ukraine. Shares of the fund cannot be resold, and Ukraine will give to the fund 50% of all new revenues from minerals. So any past debt, it's not a debt, it doesn't exist. We're not counting previous military aid from the United States as some kind of debt that Ukraine has to pay back. Zelensky said this, in the deal on minerals with the United States, there is no $500 billion debt. No $350 billion, no $100 billion. Everything the United States has previously given was a grant, approved by Congress, delivered by President Biden. Trump can't retroactively call that some kind of debt Ukraine has to pay back. Bottom line on the deal, economically this is a solid opportunity to pull in outside capital, potentially generating several billion in reinvestment every year. Politically, it's a gamble. Zelensky's administration is trusting that deeper economic ties might eventually yield better security commitments, For now, I would say Ukraine proceeds with cautious optimism. This is not a slush fund of money that the United States is going to take back to America. How I understand this new fund is when Ukraine puts money in, American companies can then spend that money in Ukraine to build new infrastructure or mines or facilities. So this fund will become an investment fund for investing in Ukraine. Revenue being put in comes from Ukraine. But yes, the ownership of these mines and factories or whatever will be American companies. So American companies are being incentivized. If you're Chevron or ExxonMobil or ConocoPhillips and you want to partner with Ukraine, initially you're going to have to put in some of your own money in order to start generating revenue in this fund. But once the fund starts generating more revenue, you can then use that money to invest more in Ukraine. To increase the size of the fund, it becomes a positive, virtuous cycle. That's actually pretty good. So how are Ukrainians reacting? And here's Ilya Ponomarenko. So essentially, the Rare Earths Agreement is just a memorandum on how the US and Ukraine are intended to invest in Ukraine's mining industry and mineral resources, and jointly get profits at some point in the future. There's a 0% certainty on whether this will ever be a real thing. The document doesn't even require parliamentary ratification at this moment. But Donald Trump will declare a grand victory as soon as Zelensky signs this in front of the cameras in Washington, D.C. And essentially that's it. Donald Trump just wants a propaganda win that he can then sell to his base. So I just explained to you that Ukraine has agreed to not pay anything back. There is no debt. All previous aid was a grant. But it's Donald Trump. And he's going to lie. And he's going to tell his supporters he just made hundreds of billions of dollars that Ukraine is going to pay the United States back. That's what Donald Trump is going to say. But that's not actually what the deal spells out.
The deal we're making gets us, it brings us great wealth. We get back the money that we spent, and we hope that we're going to be able to settle this up. My number one thing is to get that stopped. My number two thing is I don't want to have to pay any more money, because Biden has spent $350 billion without any chance of getting it back. Now we're going to be getting all of that money back plus a lot more. And we provided...
So either Donald Trump is an idiot and he doesn't understand what Ukraine has agreed to sign, or he knows the truth and he's just going to lie to his supporters. I don't think Trump cares one way or the other. I think there was tremendous blowback and pushback to what he said about Zelenskyy the last week, and he's trying to walk it back currently. This is just how Donald Trump operates. If you're new to paying attention to Donald Trump, I'm sorry, but this is what he does constantly. Change of heart. Trump calls Ukraine very brave. He also praised himself for supplying javelins, like during his first term. According to Trump, U.S. military aid for Ukraine could go forward, maybe until a peace deal with Russia is agreed upon. So Donald Trump is saying he's still open to selling weapons to Ukraine. I'm sure if European partners want to spend their money, the United States will make the deliveries as long as Congress or Trump don't have to pay for it. Military equipment and the right to fight on. Trump on what the U.S. mineral deal gives Ukraine. And what I think happened is President Zelensky and the Ukrainians said no. They said no to the mafia shakedown, and that would have made Trump look weak. It would have been embarrassing if Ukraine just refused the entire deal. So Donald Trump renegotiated with himself and then gave Ukraine a real, credible deal. It gets stupider. A press reporter asked him, "Do you still think President Zelensky is a dictator?" And he just pretended like he never said that.
Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question. We have another 3 years and 10 months of this, guys. I'm sorry. We're going to have Europe do that. Trump says no on U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine. Yeah, I imagine if there's going to be a peacekeeping force and a ceasefire, there are lots of countries stepping up. France and the UK have said they're willing to send peacekeepers. Turkey is also now saying they're willing to send peacekeepers. So if there is a ceasefire and Russia is serious, I do think we can find a credible peacekeeping-sized force to help Ukraine. And Trump admits his peace push may fail, but will try to get some land back. Speaking at his cabinet meeting, Trump noted it's possible he won't be able to work out peace between Ukraine and Russia. You have a lot of confidence in us because you assume there's going to be peace, Trump said. You know, it's possible it doesn't work out. There is a possibility, but I hope it does for the sake of humanity. So we went from Trump saying, I can solve this entire war in 24 hours, to 100 days, to 6 months, to now it might not happen. Here's some analysis from Janice Kluge. Why a ceasefire is highly unlikely. Putin is not stupid. He knows that with a ceasefire, Ukraine will build defenses and produce weapons as fast as it can, as Ukraine should. Resuming the war later will be even more costly for Russia. This is Putin's only shot, and he knows it. Russia will only stop shooting if it has some kind of control over Kyiv. Even promises by the West that it won't deliver weapons, which Europe will continue delivering weapons, will eventually not be enough. Ukraine has become too good at self-defense. US weapons are a must for Ukraine if the war continues now. But if the EU and Ukraine get a breather for a few years, they will be able to replace many things and become able to resist Russia and Ukraine even without US support. So Putin is being pulled in two different directions. There are lots of benefits to a ceasefire now and then start the war in a couple years. But there also is a risk of stopping the war, because what if Ukraine gets really good at building defense lines and then Russia attacks them again in 2 or 3 years and it just becomes more deadly, more difficult for their ground forces to advance? If I'm being honest, guys, nobody has a plan. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't think Vladimir Putin even knows what he's doing at this point. There are good arguments for a ceasefire or to stop the war entirely, but there's also good arguments to continue going. And all Ukraine can do is react. Ukraine can only react to what Russia wants to do at this point. Russia and the United States meet in Istanbul to discuss the problems of their two countries' embassies. Russian and American diplomats gathered in Istanbul Thursday to address the severely reduced operations of their respective embassies, with Ukraine explicitly excluded from discussions. So these peace talks are not peace talks, guys. They are trade negotiations and diplomatic normalizing relations. Ukraine is not on the agenda for this US-Russia state talks happening in Turkey. The reason why our embassies are so scarcely staffed is because Russia is our enemy, and we've been expelling their diplomats because they're spies. They are hostile towards the United States. But Donald Trump doesn't believe that, and he wants to increase the embassy presence of Russians here in America, as well as getting more Americans back in our embassies in Moscow and St. Petersburg. US and Russia mull cooperation on Arctic trade routes and exploration. Yes, this is what our government is doing. Donald Trump is going to meet with Putin and try and sign an aluminum deal, as well as new economic cooperation for Arctic trade routes. It gets stupider. Trump says 25% tariffs on Europe are coming. The EU was formed to screw the United States. Okay, if you're one of my European friends, here's what Donald Trump is planning for you guys next.
The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
I think Donald Trump is confusing capitalism and competition with screwing the United States. Unless you are a completely subordinate, passive vassal to America, according to Donald Trump, you are screwing the United States. This is bad, guys. This is just really bad. So what are the Russians saying? And these clips from Russia Media Monitor, I'll link them down below. State TV pundits can't believe Russia's luck. Here's what they're now saying about Donald Trump attacking the EU. And I just want to say, guys, if Donald Trump does place 25% tariffs on the EU, this would be catastrophic for both of our economies. I've hinted to you guys that Donald Trump could cause a global financial recession, which would hurt Russia the most. You know, if the American consumer stops spending or buying, and global demand for everything goes down, yes, Russia is going to collapse the hardest, but it will be bad for Europe and North America as well. But here's some Russian analysis, what they now think and believe. We should cancel Brussels, the way they tried to cancel Russia. Together with Americans, we should cancel Brussels. Brussels no longer exists. The EU no longer exists. They are gone. No one recognizes them. As far as Europe goes, do it the same way, one by one. Who wanted to make deals? You, and you. We won't take you or you, but with you, we will talk. Are you ready to do something? Us, meaning Washington and Moscow, can deal with you. As for you, we won't deal with you. The Europeans are pressuring Trump like they do to us. They always say they're trying to consolidate Europe. Consolidate truly means power. Our goal and Trump's goal is to divide them to the max, identify weak links and potential allies, and work towards this end. We have to play with it. Trump and us really do have common enemies. We have an opportunity to jointly act in this regard. So Donald Trump and MAGA, they're not isolationists. They are interventionists. They are going to carry their culture wars to your countries. They're going to take them to Canada, Australia, France, Germany, the UK. J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and the Russians are going to continue meddling in your elections until a far-right government that is pro-Russian takes power in Romania, comparable to how it is now in Slovakia and Hungary. And this is never going to stop. The Russians and MAGA, Americans, are never going to stop interfering in your domestic politics and your elections until you have a shitty, corrupt, far-right, pro-authoritarian government in charge of your democracy. I'm not holding back, guys. That's the truth. Trump says Russian oligarchs could be eligible for a $5 million U.S. gold card. Here in America, we call it a green card to get permanent residency in America. And for $5 million, you can just buy one now. Trump was asked, does this include Russian oligarchs? And Trump defended the Russian oligarchs.
Go down to nothing.
Would a Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible.
I know some Russian oligarchs who are some very nice people, and I don't know who's standing next to him, but he's laughing. He's laughing at what the president just said, because it's so stupid. US breaks with allies, declines to sign a WTO statement condemning Russian aggression. This is the World Trade Organization, and the United States officially does not recognize Russia as the aggressor in this war anymore. White House official pushes to axe Canada from the Five Eyes intelligence group. Donald Trump is serious. He wants to destroy the nation of Canada, stop them from being sovereign and independent, and then subjugate them into a resource colony for the United States. And this is what Elon Musk wants. Elon Musk tweeted 2 days ago, "Canada is not a real country." This is the exact same thing that the Russians say about Ukraine. The Russians say Ukraine is not a real country. And this is disturbing and ironic because Elon Musk has Canadian citizenship. The nation of Canada gave citizenship to Elon Musk, who does not recognize it now as a real country. So people in Canada are outraged. People like Elon Musk are enemies of our country. 250,000 Canadians sign a petition to rescind his citizenship. So if you're one of my Canadian viewers, I'll put this link down below and you can sign this as well. Maybe you can take away Canadian citizenship for the guy who doesn't believe you're a real country. And all these attacks on Justin Trudeau and Canada is good for his political party. You can see the Liberal Party in Canada was losing popular support, but as soon as Donald Trump started attacking Canada and Justin Trudeau, the Conservatives are now losing popularity and the Liberals are now gaining. This is the Trump effect basically everywhere when he opens his mouth. Let's get to the bad news for Russia. Ukrainian drones hit a strategic Russian seaport and oil refinery used for military operations. This is the Tuapse oil refinery on the Black Sea. Ukraine has struck this numerous times, and as soon as they fix everything and get the place operational again, Ukraine just hits it again. Nothing Russia can do to stop it. According to Ukrainian intelligence, Russia lost about 50% of their 120mm mortar shells after a strike on this arsenal. This happened last summer. These were a series of successful strikes on these arsenals, and we haven't seen a big strike like this since because the Russians were storing ammunition out in the open, and now they actually put the ammunition in the reinforced bunkers. So strikes against these arsenals are not as successful anymore, but this was a huge reserve loss for the Russian forces. They lost a lot of missiles and they lost a lot of ammunition. Let me share with you a clip from Dagestan. These are locals complaining about the living conditions they've been suffering under the last 3 years. As Putin diverts all state resources and wealth to fighting this war, yeah, people in Russia in the rural areas are suffering, and here is what these residents of Dagestan are saying. "We've been abandoned. There is no gas here. People are suffering. So cucumbers and tomatoes for them should not freeze, but ordinary people are freezing." I'm assuming she's talking about the elites of Moscow and St. Petersburg still having gas and electricity when rural Russians are suffering. Small children are very sick with pneumonia. Children suffer and don't go to school. We'll go to Putin too. How long can we suffer? It's been going on for years. We silently tolerate it all. How many men suffer in the war? How many mothers have lost their sons? Every year we have no light or water. Water and light are cut off in the summer. In winter there is no gas and light. This is the 21st century, not the 18th. We live like in the 18th century. We carry water in buckets, although we pay for everything on time. These people have been suffering for a very long time. You'll notice there aren't really any, well, I guess that guy's, is that a man or a woman? My assumption is that men don't want to be filmed on camera because even if they're elderly, they'll still be sent to the war to die. Russia's a terrible place. That was the point of that clip, guys. Oil is still washing ashore in southern Russia 2 months after the Black Sea spill. This is going to continue for years. For years. Because Russia doesn't have the actual resources to clean up this oil spill. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Poland to transfer 5,000 more Starlink terminals to Ukraine. Thank you so much, Poland. Poland also pledges $210 million in new military aid for Ukraine. Once again, thank you, Poland. An Australian billionaire couple is backing Ukraine with a $3 million aid package. These are private individuals, Andrew Forrest and Nicola Forrest of Australia. Thank you so much. I wish more billionaires were doing what they could to uphold the international rules-based order. Final clip I have for you is a Russian in America. He fled Russia and resettled in the United States, and he's deeply disturbed by Donald Trump cozying up with the Russians. So he felt compelled this week to film this video. He currently lives in Seattle, Washington, and this is his message for Americans, but also the people of Ukraine.
My name is Sergey. I'm Russian, and I stand with Ukraine. I'm ashamed of what my home country is doing right now. I'm also shocked by what political establishment in the United States is saying about Ukraine, about Zelenskyy, because it's not true. It was Russia, my home country, who invaded Ukraine, not the other way around. Zelenskyy is a democratically elected president of Ukraine who won in fair elections. And Putin is a dictator who has been ruling my home country for 25 years. I want to say to Ukrainian people that I will support you. I will stand with Ukraine.
I want to thank this man for speaking up. He didn't have to do that. More decent people, especially now, need to speak up. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.